Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are three guys who could do that too, if they had those tools. Marc, Shannon, and Matt.
What's happening, everybody? It's show number 587, and on today's show, we're talking about some serious woodworking drama. Our recommendation for a V, that's a V, Marc, not a Z, VOC finish, Carpenters versus Woodworkers, and grain versus figure.
Oh my goodness, how many battle royales we have in here?
Oh man, yeah, seriously. All that and more coming up. But first, we want to let you know that Wood Talk is proudly sponsored by Woodcraft. Woodcraft is the leading authority in woodworking, making, and creating. They have the tools, supplies, and expertise, as well as hands-on classes to inspire creativity at every level. Learn more at woodcraft.com.
And our show is also sponsored supported by the generous contributions of people such as yourselves. And this week, we're going to be thanking Andrew Richmond, Brooks B, Jim Aerstad, Joel Bjornstad, and Hamilton Ward. Those are our new patrons. If you want to become a patron, you can absolutely positively do so. You can go to patreon.com/woodtalk. Wow. And
you okay, Matt?
I'm not okay. You know I'm not okay. Sign up to become a patron of the show. And as a reminder, for all of our amazing patrons out there, you do get an ad-free version of the show as well with your Patreon membership. And that's full of all those fun, awkward pauses like I just did right there.
Yeah.
Where all of the stupid ads would be. None of the good ones are still there, but the bad ones.
Just the bad ones. That's right. Shannon, I do have to say, I like the shirt.
Hey.
For our audio audience, Shannon's wearing a bright yellow Tour de France shirt, and that's fantastic.
I bought this actually on the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
Really?
In 1990 something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice,
it would have been 89, the year Greg LeMond won. Beat Laurent Fignon by 6 seconds. So
Dang.
yeah, I was there.
I'm jealous.
I was a wee little one.
Just a wee lad.
Yeah.
You were only 5'10" at the time, right?
Yeah. And this was the only size they had. It was from a vendor. Yeah. And now I've grown into it.
That's
over
great.
The last 30
almost
30 years.
Yeah, 35
Pretty
years.
awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, before we get started here, just kind of starting on a downer. Unfortunately, you guys may or may not have heard of the passing of one of the greatest woodworkers that I know, and one of the greatest, what would you call him? His writings, his teaching, educator in woodworking. The passing of Glenn Huey. Influencer.
I hate to use that term, but he was he's the real influencer, not the stuff that's on Instagram type.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the greats.
One of my favorite lines from Glenn was when he was talking about cherry. And I think his line was, "Cherry blotches, get over it." Something like that. Let's not worry about, hiding all of that. It's just the way cherry works. We thought it would be nice to kind of share a little memories that we might have of Glenn from personal experiences. So my memory is, I believe it was a Festool event that I was invited out to in Indiana. Glenn was there. I was just there for me. I wasn't working with anyone at the time. And I sat on a bus next to him. I'm kind of geeking out because it's Glenn Huey. I was already a fan of his work, but he was working for Pop Wood at the time. And on the bus, I had kind of hinted that I would love, to have an opportunity to write for Popular Woodworking. And he's like, "We could probably make that happen." I was like, "Seriously?" He's like, yeah, no problem. Sure enough, when he went back, I don't know who he had to talk to. Well, I think he was the editor at the time. So he was, he could pull the strings.
He could talk to himself.
And he got me
Look
my
himself
first...
in the mirror. Do you really want to do this? Think before you do this.
Sure
Are you sure? Yeah. And he's like, he basically went back, was good to his word, and gave me my first opportunity to start writing some articles for Pop Wood. So that was a huge turning point for me and validation of my career. And it was all because of Glenn Huey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was taking a class at Chuck Bender School, and it was actually the first set of hand-cut dovetails I'd ever cut. And typical, you finish it, and Chuck told us write a date on it and keep it forever. Mm-hmm. And as I was kind of bent over writing a date on it, there's this voice over my left shoulder goes, "There's a couple gaps there, but not too bad." And I looked over and it was Glenn Huey. And I was just like, "Oh my God. Oh my God. When did you get here? You're Glenn Huey." And I think I even said that to him, and he's like, "I know."
I know.
Yeah, that was.
I'm aware.
I noticed. That's me.
Well aware of that. I don't have a name badge, but I know that for sure.
Yeah.
I also remember him at Woodworking in America shortly after I launched the hand tool school. It was probably about a year after. And yeah, it was 2011 because I had a booth at the time. And he walked up and he was looking at the joinery bench where I'm sitting now. And he's just like, wow, that's pretty good considering you built it all with hand tools. I was just like... Thanks.
That's great.
But that's like all he said and then turned and walked on. I was like, all right, I'm going to take the compliment. I'm not sure if there was some backhanded there or not.
What a stud. Yeah. I love that.
Well, for me, a lot of like the interest into period furniture, I can put on Glenn because
Hell yeah.
like when I was getting into like finer woodworking and period furniture specifically, that like really pulled me into this, like there's a little more intricacies in the techniques and the things that kind of go into those pieces. And like I've got his actual DVDs that like you would actually buy and put in the DVD player. I got his DVDs on something or whatever, and his books. I have like all the ones he ever released, and then whatever articles he had in Pop Wood. I had those too. So I ended up building several projects based off of his books and his teachings, and it was sort of a funny, like, I guess, contrast of things, because in the books, it's like step-by-step pictures. Mm-hmm. And the amount of time I spent staring at the picture, trying to figure out what the description was trying to show me or tell me what the thing was, I'm like, this is a lot. And then I found out, like, on his website, he's got like Q&A for just his books, where people have questions about like what the heck's going on in this picture that I didn't know existed until like long after I built the project. So I'm like, this would have been really helpful. So thank you, Glenn, for actually, keeping up with like what was going on. And it was so interesting. And I didn't meet him, but I took a class at the first Woodworking in America that I went to in 2014. It was super niche. It was on the broken arch pediment, specifically for tall pieces, case pieces. And I'm really shy, so I didn't go and introduce myself to him. But I was like starstruck the whole time, like, oh, I know this guy. I know this guy.
You know of him.
And then I think I first time I actually like spoke to him and met him was at one of the woodworking shows in Atlanta. I think it was like 2016 or something. And Chuck Bender, he called him over and said, hey, this guy here, he built the secretary desk and he hauled it up in the woods and set next to the stump. And like we pull out the picture and show it to him, and he's like, "Oh, this is a little bit much, Matt. You should probably tone it down a little bit."
You're trying hard, aren't you?
Stop trying so hard.
You're not impressing anybody. Nice.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know about you guys, but I think I own every one of his books.
Oh yeah, I got them all.
That he produced.
I don't have his books, but I had his DVDs.
I mean, his period furniture book, I think, was one of the first, because Daryl Peart came along shortly after. It was like one of the first books that just broke down elements. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it wasn't really a project book. It was, here's a ball and club foot. Here's a linen fold panel. Here's, a dental molding. And it was just the elements. And there's been a bunch since then, because that was like, especially with 18th century furniture, it's such a huge undertaking to build those pieces. And rarely are you going to build, a bunch of them, but you just want to look at those little elements. And I remember it was probably within a year, Daryl came out with his green and green elements one. And that whole style of woodworking book, I mean, I still own them. And that's actually kind of a testament, because most of my project books I've given away over the years, but I've kept those elements ones. His 18th century furniture in the Southern style. Actually, I have that autographed. Bought it at Woodworking in America. And that was the first period furniture book that wasn't like super high style Boston, Philadelphia. And that's the style, that neat and plain kind of Queen Anne Southern, that I truly love. And that's the type of stuff that I like to build in. Yeah, I love that book. I still just leaf through it just to look at the pretty pictures. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, obviously, Glenn was a big influence on the three of us. We wish the best and our condolences to his family. He's definitely going to be missed, for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move into what's on the bench. I got distracted from my desk project, the built-in that I mentioned last time I'm making for Nicole. I might be procrastinating a little bit, but I needed to make some shop improvements. I had no room to move. We had to shift some things around, and I needed to bring the clamps in from the single bay, because going through a doorway just to get my clamps and bring them back into the main part of the shop was just dumb. So I built Yeah, it's terrible. So yeah, basically I needed to build I was going to make a firmly attached wall, but the problem is it's on the garage door side of the shop. I'm basically creating wall space where there is none. Mm-hmm. So I thought about it, just wasn't ready to pull the trigger on something that would actually be like firmly attached. And then I thought about doing something portable, but then I just got busy, right? And I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see Southern Pine Design Co., Becca, I think her name is. I see her doing something. I'm like, that is exactly the thing that I was thinking about making, and I'm watching her make it. So I sent her a message. She sent me a couple of the dimensions that she used, and I just kind of wanted a starting point. So she was very helpful in me getting going on this, and I just built a 4x8 standalone mobile thing that just holds a ton of clamps. I think I counted, there's like 80 some clamps on there right now, and most of them are parallel clamps. So it is holding a lot of weight, and I'm keeping my eye on it for a while before I give anybody plans for this thing. I want to make sure it's not going to collapse, but it doesn't really give me any indication that it's going to be problematic. So yeah, so that was fun just to do a pure indulgent shop improvement project. Those always cheer me up.
Are you moving it back and forth between bays that's on wheels, or just keeping it in
sometimes
the main
I will.
space?
There are times where if we're teaching a class or we're having people in, anything that's in the front by the garage doors, I typically want to put in the other bay. So while normally it's never going to move, if we have something going on, I'll probably need to move it.
That's like in a scenario that like I always thought the rolling clamp rack was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I think it's like the first like use case. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you are in a position where you're out of wall space, like I think clamps on a wall is the best way to go. If I had the wall space to put them up, I just don't. So putting everything in this two-sided 4x8 vertical space means you have a ton of capacity. And instead of doing, like in the past, I would line my parallel clamps up side to side like little soldiers, and there's only one per slot. I went the other way where it actually sticks out. You turn them sideways, and I could fit 6 on each one of the sets of brackets that I bought for that. So I think I did the math on it. It's not until you have a stack of 4 or more that you actually start to gain space.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right? If you only go for like 3 or 4, you're pretty much taking up the same amount of space as if they were turned, the other way. So I went up to 6 on each one of these things, saved a ton of space that way. And it's awesome. I'm enjoying it so far. So I just like having that shop project distraction that always puts me back.
Well, it makes the space more useful and like enjoyable to be in at the same time.
Totally.
Like, this is great.
Yeah. If I'm ever feeling a little bit down or just not in the mood to build things, doing those little shop projects is a surefire way to get me back into it. So yeah, that's all I've been working on. What about you, Matt? Speaking of downers.
Yeah.
How about we skip Matt? I don't want to hear this.
Too negative already.
Maybe just skip me today.
You can make it very quick. We don't have to dwell on it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to or not, but so our dog, we had to put her down last week on Wednesday, and it was a lot more sudden than I thought it was going to be. So she was diagnosed with pretty advanced leukemia in April, and they're like, we could talk about end of life stuff now, or we can put her on steroids that would mask all the symptoms, and you get maybe a few months with her. But the downside is that the steroids one day will just stop working.
Yeah.
So we went the steroids route, and like it took like 5 or 6 years off her life. Like went backwards. I've never seen her with so much energy in so many years. Like she was like a new dog again.
Invincible.
And it was great. And she was like back to her old self, like being excited and running
juiced
around and just being a happy dog again. And I think that sort of put me in this false sense of like, she's going to be fine forever kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Lindsay was the one taking her to the vet. So the vet was kind of still like reminding her that like, this is not real this time. So I think Lindsay took this a lot better than I did. So on Wednesday, like, she woke me up at 5 a.m. to take her out to go to the bathroom. I'm like, whatever. At least you're not going in the house. That's great. I bring her back in. I go back to bed, and Lindsay wakes up at 7 or 7:30, and now she can't walk anymore. And within 2 hours, she can't walk, and she's shaking. And Lindsay takes her to the emergency vet place or whatever. And even then, I'm thinking, oh yeah, they'll probably just like give her some kind of med and she'll be back here tomorrow. Maybe we will have to put her down, but it might be like in a few days. But it was like, no, this has to happen today.
This is it.
And it didn't quite like, I have never had a pet before. I've never had like this sort of like connection to another thing that's not a human before. Mm-hmm. So I didn't quite realize what I was getting into with euthanasia. Like it was heavy.
It's terrible.
It didn't quite dawn on me until I watched her just fall asleep as they put her unconscious, make her unconscious. Yeah. And then sometime between that moment and as the vet was swapping out to put the euthanasia into the IV line, and I watched the solution go up the line and go into her, that's when I was like, oh shit, this is it. Like, we're done. It's over. And then like I lost it. Like it was,
of course,
it was bad. I'm like, but I wasn't expecting to have that much of a difficulty with it. So it was really hard for me to go through that. And then once the vet checked that her heart had stopped, Lindsay was holding her, and she's like, she couldn't take it anymore. So I held her as like her bodily functions ended, and I watched her take her last little swallow for the last time. Like that was it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. It's over. And I carried her back to the car in a bag, and I got home. And I'm like, okay, well, I gotta get something. We're gonna bury her. I'm not going to do her dirty. I'm not going to just throw her in the ground and bury her in the dirt. I'm not going to put together like a crappy box or whatever. So I spent the afternoon in the shop making, it's a dovetailed box with captive top and bottom. Mm-hmm. It was just, you put her in the box and you dry assemble it because the joinery is tight enough and it's going to go buried anyway. So I didn't glue it up or anything. But I made it out of some cherry that I had cut and dried when she was a puppy, and she would have like been following me around stacking it. The lid and the bottom are from the set of boards I use for the high boy. So the lid has some crotch figure in it that's like a book match of the drawer fronts on the lower case. And it was a tough afternoon for me sitting there in the shop being like, yeah, I like doing this, but also like the reason I'm here, I'm not that happy about. Mm-hmm. And just sitting there remembering all these memories I have with this dog that I didn't even think that would affect me like that. And like for the next few days after we buried her, I'm like, I was like a mess.
Yeah.
And I started like reflecting on it and thinking about it, but a lot of it was just the fact that she was present for a lot of this transitional period of my life. We got her when we had just gotten married. I think we were married for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. So she was with me from like the early part of our marriage. Like the first thing that we did together as like grown-ups, getting her, training her, and having her be our companions when we weren't together. And then she was there for my transition into fatherhood, making all of the nursery furniture because she would hang out in the shop with me doing that. And then when I went out to stay-at-home dad for that short stint, it was me, her, and JR every day, hanging out, trying to get something done so my business could start going. I don't know, it was tough, but I think I've come to peace with it now, I think. But
yeah.
How old was Pancake?
She was 12. She just turned 12 last month.
Well, I can tell you, I'm not too proud to admit that I was bawling when I saw Lindsay's post. There was like 20 photos.
Yeah.
And it was like a retrospective. And it occurred to me what you just said. Like there are photos of little Matt. Like you look like you're about 16, and super young Lindsay, and then this tiny little puppy. And it just occurred to me like how long you guys had her, and exactly what you just said, like how much changed. Like that's some powerful stuff. Yeah, I lost it hardcore. I can say that.
Well, and especially when you're talking about the pup that was your kid before the kids.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know that I know for Nicole and I with Jax and Lexi. We were messed up for months, you know, and this was, you know, we had to take care of our human kids when it happened, but our connection to them was so much deeper because we had so much time with them before we had children. And Shannon, you could attest to this with your relationship with your dogs. It's deep and it's hard. So, man, sorry to hear about that. I was very sad to hear the whole thing, but I think you gave her a good send off with that beautiful box.
Yeah.
It's buried in the backyard. It was it's a weird feeling too to be like, okay, I just finished this. It's beautiful.
Putting it in the ground.
Throw some dirt on it.
Putting it in the dirt. Yeah.
That's what you do. That's what you do, man.
Yeah.
All right, Shannon. you get the honor of following that up.
I don't want to follow that.
This might be the most serious and depressing show we have ever done.
Right. Let's see what I can do here. I'm taking pieces of wood and making them smaller. Play the clip. I've got a series over the next 3 months. I've got a fair bit of travel around to architecture firms around the country presenting continuing education course. Like most professional organizations, architects have to take a certain number of credits to maintain their certifications, their associations. So one of the big business development things is develop a course in which they get a credit, and then you show up and you present. And while you're there, you get to pitch your company and all that stuff. So I've written a continuing ed course on wood grain, specifically how to specify wood grain. The number of examples that I've got photos of, but I want to have like physical samples of. So I've been putting together this kit of every possible wood grain combination I can think of and trying to put it in something that will be like a cool box that could be left behind, ideally. Okay. Wow. So it's actually been, from that respect, it's been really fun. Because it's not just natural grains like curly and fiddleback and coarse and fine, but also like sawn grains, rift, plain, quartered, and trying to find like the best examples of not only species, but what I have in my own collection. And it's been kind of fun because there's digging into like my turning square box to like show the perfect like high contrast wood. It's like, well, Zeracote, that's got some crazy contrast and difference to it. I've got some pieces of quilted maple. And so, yeah, it's been actually, in fact, it's set up behind me. It's actually been a really good use for the Joint Maker Pro because I've planed them down into a bunch of like scant 3/8 inch pieces. And I'm cutting them into these not tiny little like playing card things, slightly longer, but they're going to slot on edge into this box. And it's been kind of fun. And then, pulling out, giving them a lacquer coat and everything, it's just the attention to detail, like into smoothing the edges, making sure that this is a sample that comes out, that there's nothing sharp, that it all feels good, that the finish is perfectly polished. It's just kind of funny. They're little boards with no joinery whatsoever, but at least they're not French polishing them. That might be a bit too far, but yeah.
Good practice
though. From a finishing perspective, it's good stuff, but it's been really kind of fun just to kind of examine the perfect grain, the perfect board that makes quartered figure obvious. Like, what is it about quartered figure? What is it about a coarse grain or a high contrast wood like Douglas fir that makes it distinctive? So yeah, that's been probably the last 2 weeks, been working on that, and probably for another 2 weeks because I need to probably make like 20 of these things. And then I'll probably have to make 20 more, depending on how well they're received. But yeah,
okay,
that may be enough to hand one over to the millwork house and say, put the CNC to work.
Yeah,
I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez. All right, well, that sounds great. We've got some kickback. Each of us have one here. So Dan wrote in. He says, Wood River hand planes is the subject. Now that you're sponsored by Woodcraft, can you talk to them about making a rabbeting jack plane? Lee Nielsen is always out of stock. So Dan, you just did. So
boom.
They listen to the show. Guys, go make a rabbeting jack plane for Dan. If you
Dan,
don't mind.
I think you should write back in and tell us why. Like, what are you going to use it for? Give Woodcraft a reason. Let's give a case study here.
What's the use case? What are we doing with this thing?
I have one, and I use it for breadboard tenons, and that's it.
That's it? Yeah. We'll send it to Dan.
What am I missing, Dan? Come on.
We'll do a little hand plane matchmaking here.
No, I like it. It's perfect for breadboard tenons, but it's the only reason that I can think of to use it. So
pretty niche.
I want to know what I'm missing.
I'm trying to think of something else other than that. Like, what kind of wide rabbet thing would you do that you wouldn't?
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's awesome for that. It's like the perfect tool for that.
Anything that's just a big, chunky tenon, long tenon like that, right? Or wide tenon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let us know, Dan, but we'll make sure they hear this. That's the best we could do. All right, Matt.
Smoothing into an inside corner, I guess. That's the only other thing I can think of. I don't know why you'd be doing that, but hey, you do you.
Yeah.
All right. We got here Dave. First off, I love the show. Just came across it recently from the July Woodcraft mailer.
Hey,
how great is that?
Look at that.
It's working.
This is great. I like
Plus
this.
one. Put one on the board.
Oh, man. Dave is a spoon carver. You can see some of Dave's work. It's wood babies. If you Google 3-dot spoons, Okay, one fast question. Are the shows available to watch on video? And if so, where? When I go on YouTube, it only has like 53 videos. I would love to hear and see them all. You went to the right place.
Yeah.
Do we really only have 53 videos there?
I think it's just, we used to do some in the past, really old ones. Then we stopped doing any video, no live, nothing.
Yeah, but
and then we resumed
still
again.
Have more than that, though.
Oh, then to 53? I don't know, man. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't feel like it's been that recent.
Yeah.
Or that long ago that we started.
It hasn't been. And really 2 episodes a month. We haven't been doing video. So anyway,
we fought it for a long time. Like most podcasts had moved to video like years before, because I think it's the old school. Like we remember when podcasts were just audio, and I'll be damned if I'm going to do this video thing. But yeah,
and it was just an extra thing to do, and it still is just an extra thing to do. But yeah, I think you found them. You found the right ones, and the archive is not fully covered. It's mostly
audio. Did you get
audio.
rid of them or something? Where's all the ones that we did? Oh, that's why, because they're categorized now.
Yeah,
the original ones we did when we live streamed them. They're under live streams.
A live stream capture.
That's why.
Yeah, versus a produced, edited version that Todd did for us.
They used to be all mixed together. Now they're separate.
By the way, 3-dot spoons. Take a look at it. This guy makes some pretty unique, like slender, long shaped spoons that are gorgeous with like really unique handles. This is nice stuff. I like this. Oh. Aren't those beautiful? That cherry, the one in the middle at the top, cherry and canary wood. Hello.
It's like a seam ripper?
It looks like spoon? It, right? Yeah, like a letter opener or something. It looks like one of those things that they give you to cut wrapping paper with.
Oh, yeah.
Right, with a razor blade in it.
I think it's just it's a spork.
Yeah.
Fork on one and spoon on the other.
Skewer stuff with the handle. Dude, nice work.
Great shapes.
Yeah, seriously, these are awesome.
Very unique. Well, cool.
I love the use of paint and stuff on the handles. That's really cool.
So everybody, go give him some love. 3-dot spoons. Google it, and you'll find his website.
Yeah, right on.
Okay.
Those look much better than any spoon I've ever carved.
Indeed.
All like 5 of them.
Yeah.
This is from Brent. He says, Wood Talk episodes. All of them.
Oh, boy.
I discovered your show through Marc and the Woodworking Morning Show last year. I started listening from the beginning and have finally gotten through all the shows. Hey!
Nice.
Welcome to the cult. My day job is building custom furniture, and I have my own shop at home. I started listening for entertainment, but ending learning something from most episodes. Wow. I've learned so much about the industry and process of going from tree to lumber from both Shannon and Matt, not to mention some of the more obscure hand tools I have heard Shannon talk about, and about that I now know exist. I hate to leave Marc out of this, but I was more familiar with this channel, so I knew what to expect.
Nice.
Which is not a whole lot, basically.
I always get the shaft
down here.
Yeah. Always getting the shaft over here.
That's funny. Keep up the great show, and I guess I'm obligated to say thanks for not quitting.
There you go.
Thanks for not quitting listening.
Great
pat
feedback.
Myself on the back right here. Oh, yeah, that feels good.
We love hearing how you guys find us, especially people who find us through this Woodcraft relationship. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I think Woodcraft is doing a solid for us with the amount of promotion they're putting in their stores. It's very much appreciated.
Doing something.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like to see it. All right, so we got some woodworking drama going on. As if this show wasn't on a downer enough, we so the guys don't know about this. I heard about what's going on here from Instagram. I watched a video about it, and I hesitated whether or not we should even talk about this. So if you haven't heard, there is a whole thing going on right now where Lee Valley is suing Pat Lapp. So if you don't know Pat, he's the guy who was in Making Fun, right, on Netflix. And
is this a real thing, though? Before we get this is not satire?
No, this is not like an
a
April
marketing
Fool's
thing. This is not. This is the real. Okay. Right,
there is a lawsuit that is going on right now. And so yeah, Pat Lapp, he's on social media. You find him anywhere in woodworking and making space. I don't know him personally, but we have talked and comment on each other's stuff periodically. Seems like a really nice dude. So here's the thing. Lee Valley is suing him for $500,000. $500,000.
Canadian dollars, though, or?
They are in Canada. That's a good question.
Then it's no big deal then. I mean,
I have to imagine it is Canadian dollars.
Well,
hang on.
Soon enough, the Canadians are going to be laughing at us as the dollar continues to drop, and they're going to be like, quit making fun of our loonies.
How much is that in U.S.?
It's a lot.
Still a lot.
$364,000.
Oh, well then,
for
no
us
big deal.
weirdos down below. So I hesitate to talk about this stuff because it always seems like the things I'm going to hear are only going to present one side, right? Of course, we are hearing this from people who know Pat, who like Pat, and they're trying to present his case as Lee Valley, bad corporate, entity suing poor helpless Pat Lapp. So I kind of looked into it a little bit deeper. I watched some of the videos, and I actually read. This stuff is publicly available. You can actually go read the suit and then the countersuit and kind of judge for yourself. So there is a GoFundMe.
Oh my God, tell us what it's about.
I'm going to tell you in a second. There is a GoFundMe, but I want you guys to be prepared. I do not like sharing GoFundMes when I don't actually know the whole story. It makes me very uncomfortable.
I don't even know the story still.
Yeah,
no.
I'm not going to
Shannon
tell you
and I have no idea what's going on still.
I'm not even going to tell you because you're being a turd.
Everyone listening has no idea what's going on.
You're being a very bad person. All right, here's what's going on. I'll tell you. So Lee Valley, okay, Pat used to work for Lee Valley, I guess back around 2016 to 2018 or something like that. He worked for them for a few years. He made content while working for them. And as is the case when you do that, quite often that content is owned by the company you were working for at the time. Mm-hmm. They decided, this according to Pat, they decided that sharing it on both their channel and his social was mutually beneficial for everybody. And that's what they did. Time goes by. Fast forward to 2023. He receives a notice that says he needs to take certain videos down. So he took down, apparently immediately, he says he took the videos down that they asked for, thought everything was okay, but then he gets another notice a little bit later saying, take the videos down. He's like, I did. If there are other videos that are offending, you need to let me know which ones, send me the links. And they kind of just, it sounds like they gave him the runaround and didn't actually produce a distinct set of links. Somehow or another, he found out what they wanted, and they were actually looking at videos that were not part of this. They were his own content, but to appease them and to just be done with this, apparently, he took those down as well. Also, what's happening at some point, you know how when YouTube can send you like a whole slew of copyright infringement things, like where they give you the option to find people who are taking your content, and you could en masse kind of throw strikes at these people. So I think one of those instances occurred, and he accidentally sent that to Lee Valley at some point. Lee Valley claims that got them taken off of YouTube for a period of time because there were too many copyright strikes. He says that was accidental. Okay. So I guess apparently they still claim that he didn't take everything down, and they are claiming $20,000 in damages per video. And I believe there's a total of 25 videos in question here, which is where you get the 500,000 from. It's one of those things, and I've got a couple of issues with it. Like, where are they getting that number from? $20,000?
$20,000.
It'll be in the suit if you read it.
I mean, I know what
the filing should say how it came up with the value. Like
I didn't. Well. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Although this is Canada, I don't know how the legal system works there. I guess.
Yeah, I didn't see any specifics on how they drilled into that number, but that seems very generous because I don't know how many videos, especially from back then, actually earned that much money. For and if they're fully monetized, who knows? So that's the situation that's going on right now. It's that it's kind of a he said versus they said sort of situation, but on the surface, this sucks. Like this is like my big problem with this is if they agreed to do this and they waited till 2023 to do something about it, I feel like they kind of already played their hand and don't really have much of a right to suddenly change what was probably a handshake deal at the time. Like let's make sure these are posted. But I think they did. It seems like it sounds kind of retaliatory for the copyright strike thing. And told him to take everything down. Now, the other thing, if I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, what came out in 2022 that kind of gave Pat a whole lot of recognition? His Netflix show.
Yeah, making fun.
Yeah, so you see, like, his rise to stardom is increasing. He's becoming more valuable. Maybe it's even more of an issue now. And waiting till 2023 to tell him to take the videos down, I don't know what the statute of limitations on things like this is, but that seems a little off to me. So Anyway, we can link to this stuff if you guys want to go and read the court documents and make a decision for yourself. And if you think it's worth supporting Pat, there is a GoFundMe, because that's a lot of damn money. And his countersuit, by the way, is asking $20,000 in damages and to pay for his legal fees. That's his countersuit, not $500,000.
Right.
So
yeah, it I don't know. It never looks good. I mean, $500,000 is a hell of a lot of money for you and me, but for 20 million, 200 million. I just read it somewhere on another, and I closed that tab already. But Popular Woodworking commented on it, and they kind of threw that number out. But I don't know, man. I could come down on both sides of this, honestly.
It's tricky. Like, I don't know. Again, this is a problem where we can now see the two sides. But we don't know who's telling the full truth, and then really what the law says about these kinds of things. Because ultimately, if it's within the parameters of the law, then someone's wrong and someone's right, and this will hash out the way it's supposed to. But
all kind of comes down to whatever that initial contract was.
Yeah,
to produce that content and what ownership of work product and
I feel like though if they kind of relinquish that right, if they give him permission and let him do it for years, and then suddenly go back and say, hey, we had this contract, it's like, but did you have that contract? Because you didn't. I'm not a legal expert. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I wish Pat the best, and thought it would be worth spreading the word so you guys can decide for yourselves.
This is very weird.
It's interesting. Yeah, I actually, Matt, you've got a lawyer for a wife. Why don't you go get her? No, just kidding.
I'm going to send us to her, but
she's going to start to bill us. We can't have that. I would be curious to have her take on it, though, but not on the show. Text me later. Okay, text me later. Oh, man. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You guys know who's not suing Pat Lapp?
Wow.
And scene.
Yes. Finally. Everyone up till now was just practice.
That was... Yep. That was very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was
well done.
very,
well played,
very
Mark.
good.
Okay. Well, as part of Woodcraft's Just Get Started campaign, we talked about that last time. It's a great program that they're doing. They recently released a video showing the one and only Adam Savage carving a spoon. What a fun video. I think it's like 27 minutes long.
Yep.
It's fantastic, like editing, really well done. And here's the thing, most corporate videos, one of the things, even today, they'll still make the mistake of doing is just like over editing and loading it with really crappy music. And there is none of that. This is literally looking over his shoulder as the man carves a spoon from beginning to end. He makes mistakes, he cracks it, he fixes it, and I just watching him do this, most of it is just like a chip carving technique, right? If you guys took a look at it, I don't know much about carving, but it's really all by hand, and he does a little bit of power sanding, I think, for some of the parts. Very simple build, but it was great seeing him do it. It was a lot of fun. So great video. If you guys want to watch it, we're definitely going to put that link in the notes for you. But did you guys get a chance to take a look at this?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to take a tip from this. I always carve the bowl last. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. I don't know if anybody, I've never had spoon carving instruction. I just, and literally like five spoons is like the extent of my knowledge on this. So, but certainly it seems to make a heck of a lot of sense, right? Because he's got this huge block of wood and it's like super supported with a hold fast. I loved how he put it up on a block so it was kind of angled down. I'm digging that spoon knife that he's got. Big, long handle. The leverage he got out of it's much bigger than my tiny little spoon knife.
It looked like it was actually easy to use. Versus like the normal spoon knife.
And he's got it like two-handed in there, hogging out. That was pretty cool. But for me, the biggest thing, like in the middle of it, he said, slow is a substitute for skill, which I freaking love that. Like the number of people who are like, oh, I want to build this, but I need to build my skills a little bit more. And I've been harping for years that woodworking is you're always going to build a project that has an element of something you've never done. Yeah. Like no matter what you build, there's going to be something you haven't done before, unless you're just building the same thing over and over and over again. And it's not really a matter of, I've got to be better at this. It's just slow down a little bit, So he made the comment at the end. He's like, I could have done this whole thing and a quarter of the time just using all power tools, but I wanted to, enjoy it, slow down a little bit more because like me, he's like, I built like 4 spoons. So this was my way to not screw it up, was to slow down. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, great video. You guys definitely want to go there and check it out. And of course, head over to the woodcraft.com/start if you're looking for some inspiration. You need a little bit of help getting started. You need a little kick in the butt. You can find a lot of good information, tutorials, stuff that you could buy if you just want a quick kit to put together on a weekend just to get you excited, get you out there making something, and helping you just get started. That's what Woodcraft is doing for you guys. So woodcraft.com/start for more info. And thank you, Woodcraft, for sponsoring the show. We really appreciate it.
Should mention they have spoon-shaped blanks at Woodcraft. I bought this spoon-shaped blank. Obviously, I've done a fair bit of carving to it, but
I was going to say that thing's almost done.
Yeah,
spoon.
They're
got a long way to go, believe me. But like, it was typical like 5-quarter square edge blank that was carved into like that basic shape.
Oh, really?
And it was great because I took it up into the mountains to go carving, and I didn't have to bring any of like the axes or the rough tools, just a spoon knife. So it's good stuff.
I got to say, Shannon, I like 3-dot spoons version better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
This is the tip I learned from Roy Underhill. Always keep it moving so the camera can't focus on it. Yeah.
Yes.
Look at that. Look at that. See that? You can see the fat. That's beautiful. Yeah.
To hide the blood too.
That was before
Most valuable thing I ever learned from Roy Underhill.
Before we had all the Instagram filters to smooth everything out.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some questions here. Let's get to them. First one I have is from a dude named Marc. Spells it the other way. I'm building an entry table for my parents' house and was looking for a wipe-on zero VOC finish and was looking for a recommendation. I've used Rubio Monocoat in the past, but was hoping to find something a little cheaper and I could verify is non-toxic. So remember, no VOC doesn't necessarily mean no toxicity. So the activator that's usually in these 2-part mixtures is not something I want to come in contact with any more than I have to. So I'm still wearing gloves. You'll see oftentimes people don't, but I do choose to do that. But that said, once it's cured, totally fine. It should be inert and shouldn't cause any issues, but it is zero VOC. What you want to look into is the activator is a diisocyanate, and look into, what that stuff is, what it can do, and whether or not you want to mess with it. But I think, again, once it's cured, that's the key with all wood finishes, is upon the process of curing, they become a lot safer in terms of like, is there any kind of toxic remaining elements in there? And typically there isn't. I'm going to recommend you look at Natura One Coat as an alternative. I did a shootout of finishes like these. Natura came out on top in terms of a number of factors, but one of the most important things was its protection. It was the most protective with the series of tests that I did, and also incredibly cheap compared to Rubio. So Natura is $39 for 360 mils, and Rubio is $58 for 350 mils. So they really undercut that price significantly. I mean, if they're doing the colors or the clear finish that you want and they have it, you're way better off just getting it from Natura One Coat because it's as good, if not better, and cheaper. It's very rarely that we have like a clear winner like that when it comes to finishing, an obvious winner like that. So that would be my recommendation.
This is a question from Chris, and I'm paraphrasing dramatically because he sent it to my Lumber Update email, asked a question, and then said at the bottom, here's another question, but this is probably more for Wood Talk. And then I couldn't find it anywhere in my inbox. So basically, Chris is a fine finish carpenter, and he's like, why has carpenter become a lesser term as compared to, quote, woodworker? As a fine finish trim carpenter, I wonder about this based on the standards that I hold for myself, as well as what my customers expect from me. So I don't know. I've always had a great deal of respect. I've always had a great deal of respect for carpenters, like all the way back to Williamsburg. Like when you go to Colonial Williamsburg, they used to call them the joiners. They changed it to the carpenter's shop. And I wonder if like the reason they didn't call them carpenters in the 80s and 90s was because of what Chris is talking about. But to me, the carpenter has always had like the woodworking superpowers because they're not in a shop. They're not in a controlled environment with like stationary tools and stuff. They've got everything in a toolbox. And they're laying out compound miters while, astride a ridge beam on a church or something like that. The stuff that carpenters can do with framing squares, I still don't understand because I'm not forced to do that in my own shop. Chris does make a point that I couldn't remember exactly, but it was something to the fact of like, if woodworkers are going to throw shade at carpenters, then I'm going to throw shade at framers, because he's like, I think the framers tend to get lumped into carpenters, and those guys are just throwing up stud walls like overnight. And, the precision that's required for that is totally different than the guy putting up crown or, and I don't know. Let's be fair. We've actually had an episode about this where I think it was Marc brought it up. He talked about how some of like the trim molding in his house that he was fixing. And you're like, what were you thinking here? What was going on here? There's no question there's a large scale of quality in the workforce for carpenters. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, Chris, going against you is woodworkers all tend to be hoity-toity, kind of snobby in our shops with fine furniture, and we're fine woodworkers with the big old air quotes around that. Whereas carpenters are a much, much broader job title.
I think they're still at a range with woodworkers though too. I think you're still looking at a spectrum because you can you're classifying you're thinking woodworkers as fine furniture makers, but in my mind I'm like, oh, it could be that guy making pocket hole farmhouse tables out of 2x12s, gluing their breadboard ends on. That's a woodworker.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I feel like the term woodworker is more often used by woodworkers because the number of people who like every time a guy, like an electrician or a plumber comes to my house, my mechanical room is right next door to my shop. So I usually just open the garage door and they come and go through the shop. And the first thing they say is, oh man, you're a carpenter. Like that's the common term. And I think the woodworkers, we call ourselves woodworkers, like I said, because we're snobs. So I don't know. Chris, I feel for you. I've seen some pretty bad trim carpentry out there, but the good ones, they blow my mind. Like what you can do on a job site with a block plane and a speed square, it's incredible. I've got a shop full of tools. You've got a toolbox with like an 8, the 16th in the number of tools, and you're able to do really cool stuff with it. So much respect.
Yeah, I've got nothing but respect for especially the high-end carpenters, the ones who really like. It's the thing that I'm avoiding with the desk. It's a built-in, and I got to do a couple of scribes. Wah, like for those guys, that's nothing. Like, what I admire.
It's Tuesday.
They're able to make things look good with typically inferior materials, and as shop woodworkers, we don't have to deal with that. I mean, most of the time, oh, that's not good. Well, let me get another one. And I'm going to wait until I get boards that are good. We take the time to pick out the perfect boards. Like watching Matt take a whole slab and pick all of his project parts out of one slab. We've got those options. So
all the boards are flat and square. There's nothing's warped.
And the whole goal, I found myself with this stuff, my whole goal is to make sure I'm starting from the squarest, flattest material possible because everything else just becomes easier. So when you're working in a home, in any kind of a building, you don't have that luxury, but you still have to make it look perfect. And that's a bit of a magic trick that these guys do.
In fact, most of the wood they're working with, somebody else ran it.
Yeah.
They didn't actually create that molded profile or even the S4S profile. And it was run at like a millwork house like where I work, where you're running, thousands of feet, tens of thousands of feet per hour. So there's bow, there's cup, there's side bend, there's skip probably. And finer millwork houses are going to have some quality control, but flatness is not something we care about. We get rid of cup, but bow, no, bow's not a big deal. Side bend's not even a big deal. Just muscle it in place and nail it in place. Yep. But yeah.
I think when you're talking about the scale, like Matt mentioned, the scale and gray areas between types of woodworkers or skill levels of woodworkers, I would guess one of the reasons why you might have a woodworker saying, no, I'm not a carpenter, I'm a woodworker, is partly because of the framers being part of this too, right? They are considered carpenters wherever they are in that process, whether it's framing or other things. So you could look at framing as I'm saying you could, I'm not saying they are, but you could look at it as a less skilled operation than making a fine piece of furniture, right? There's a lot more room for error. We fuss about 16ths and 32nds in our work. Those guys are worried about, plus or minus a quarter inch, right? It's not the same thing. So I'm just wondering if maybe that's where it comes from, where a woodworker can be a little bit snobby because carpenter does involve such a wide range of skill levels. But if you're talking about fine trim carpenters, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Those guys are artists, guys and gals. Like your Gary Katz, right? Like those kinds of people who are next level.
I just know the most humbling experience I've had in building anything out of wood is when I'm forced to leave my shop. When I've had to do installs on a site somewhere.
I hate it.
I am a fish out of water and useless. And like, I remember installing this columbarium in the basement of a church. And, it's kind of like when you go to Home Depot on the weekend like your 9th trip to Home Depot on the weekend. I must have made 9 trips back to my shop because I didn't have the right tool and had no way to do it without that specific tool. Yeah, I was useless.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. What we got here? From Phil.
Few awkward pause by Matt, and go.
Thanks, Shannon. I wouldn't have known it was there if it wasn't for you. All right. Phil has a question about grain versus figure. I thought I had a better answer for this before Shannon did his what's on the bench thing, but here we go. Many years ago, my woodworking teacher at the time told me I was using the term grain incorrectly and went on to explain grain and figure. It was at this point that the penny suddenly dropped and I understood how to sand with the grain. Up until then, I did, know you were supposed to sand with the grain, but I didn't see how that was possible with all the squiggly loops and curves. But since then, I've heard so many people using grain and figure interchangeably. I begin to doubt my knowledge on the term. So grain and figure, are they, as I believe, different things? If so, should we be better at using the correct terms correctly for clarity and to prevent confusing anally literate people like me? So I thought I had a good answer for this, where I'm like, okay, well, the grain is like, the big lines that go from top to bottom, and then like anything that's kind of weird looking is figure. But then as I got thinking about this, I'm like, well, the grain is just really just a word for the fibers in the wood as they're running through the tree. And how they present to the face of the board can affect the way they look. If they're just like a cathedral grain, then that's just grain running from top to bottom. But if it was cathedral, but it also had a bit of curl in it, then those fibers are running top to bottom, but also in and out of the face. So I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more actually not as cut and dry as I thought it was going to be for a good answer. So then I started
lumber metaphor, cut and dried, nice.
Cut like that. I was going quick there. So I started thinking about, okay, well, maybe a better analogy for this is like splitting firewood, because when you split that firewood, you can see how the grain actually goes through the chunk of firewood around or whatever, longitudinally through the tree. And if it just splits nice and straight down there, you got straight grain. But if you do have any curl in it, then all of a sudden the edge of that piece of firewood has undulation on it because that's where the curl is. Still technically grain. So at least to me, the way that I always approach this is like talking about the grain of the board would be if you find the end grain, whatever edge of the board and the other edge that has end grain on it, and you connect them together, that's the grain direction on the board. So if you're talking about sanding with the grain, you would sand in that direction from end grain to end grain, not from edge grain to edge grain. That's how I think about that as far as sanding with the grain. But then I think about like figure. I'm like, okay, yeah, but also like people get confused by figure, and then they start sanding across the grain because they think they're sanding with the figure or something, or they don't realize that figure is actually inherently in the wood and they're trying to sand through it and it never goes away. I've heard that one a lot, especially like medullary rays, trying to sand out medullary rays.
Good luck.
So that's like another weird thing. So I think wood's kind of weird, but as far as terms go, I feel like, to me, the grain would be like the longer lines in the board running from end grain to end grain, and anything that I would call figure is going to be some kind of weird stuff that's not just like straight lines or cathedrals, I guess, if you're looking at something plain on.
Yeah, when I read this, I kind of had a similar reaction where I'm just like, wait a minute, this is a question? I didn't, like, what is the problem? And then I was like, okay, now I can kind of see where there's a little bit of a distinction there. But for me, I've always thought of figure as simply like the visual descriptor of the grain. Like, what does the grain look like? That's the figure.
Really? You were thinking like this is riffs on figure?
I wouldn't call it that. I would say it's riffs on grain, but I would, Yeah,
I've heard people say that.
I had that same thing in my head. Where I'm like,
I've heard that.
Yeah. But I guess most of the time the word figure comes in when there's a unique presentation to the surface. The grain is doing something funky, then we would call it figured. So if you had two supplies of wood at a wood shop, one is the figured wood and the other is your plain wood, they both feature grain, but one is figured grain and it's going to be more expensive because it's figured. That's kind of how my brain susses it out.
I can tell you how I've built this architect course.
Yeah,
where
that's probably a good way to go with this.
You have like your basic grain, right? That whole idea of the grain runs longitudinally up the tree, and you have cross grain and you have width of grain. but figure is kind of anomalous grain, whether acted on by soil chemistry, the way it grew on a hill, or sometimes infection, and a bunch of stuff we don't understand. Like people don't truly understand why bird's eye is bird's eye, but that's like a natural kind of aberrant grain. But then you have grain that is produced by external forces like decay and fungus and stuff like that. Spalting is an example of that. Beetle kill pine, the blue stain in beetle kill pine, pecky cypress. Those are grains. Those are figured grains, you might say. But then you also have sawn figure, rift sawn, quarter sawn, and flat sawn, whether it's cathedral, medullary, or clear vertical grain. So there's those three different types. It's all grain, but it's like a more descriptive version of the grain, if you will. That's how I do it.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Very academic.
Yeah, this
How
is
fun.
This is a lot weirder of a question than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. There's more to it than what's on the surface, for sure. It's more to that grain than the figure you see on the surface, man.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Remember, this show is made possible by the generous contributions of our patrons. That's patreon.com/woodtalk, as well as our friends at Woodcraft. There's always something cool going down at your local store. So always check the website at woodcraft.com, see what's going on. We're toward the end of the month. Listen to the last show if you want to hear. There's only a couple things left going on this month. But of course, next time we'll talk a little bit more about some of the upcoming events happening in August.
I looked at my local store. There's a couple of cool carving classes that I'm thinking about jumping in. And
Nice.
although I wish I could say they weren't offered in the afternoon on Wednesday, but
Not the most convenient time.
I work for a lumber company. That's still work, right? I could go over there and maybe
Sure.
if I brought wood, that would be the same. Anyway,
Okay.
good questions this week, folks. Some
Good job,
thought-provoking head
everybody.
scratchers.
You did
Good
it.
job, listeners. You did it. So keep those good questions coming. Good questions only, please. Send the good questions to woodtalkshow.com. Well, don't send them there. Go there. Submit the form. Or send them to woodtalkshow@gmail.com. The bad questions, you can send those, I don't know, Matt at mattcremoda.com.
I'll take them. Yeah. Send them over here. Yeah.
He's
Bad
got
questions
some
only,
emails.
please.
Send them to him. Thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for the questions. Keep those questions coming. Find us on Instagram at Wood Talk Show, or find us individually at Matt Cremona, at Wood Whisperer, and at Renaissance Woodworker. Thank you, Woodcraft. Thank you, listeners, and good night.
Find me.
All right, I don't have to say anything else. You just closed the show. Good job.
Find me.
Thank you. Good night.
I'm hiding. Come find me.